Okay team, it is time to embrace the edge because today we are doing our Dark Knight guide. So if you enjoy feeling like a DPS, weaving off GCD abilities, and listening to Evanescence, this video is for you. Dark Knights have some of the highest burst damage in the game, but the rotation also has a lot of downtime in between burst windows. That being said, Dark Knights are popular, and that's for a reason, so let's not waste any more time and go over their abilities. First up, the 1-2-3 combo. Hard Slash with 170 potency, into Siphon Strike with 260 potency, which also restores 600 MP, Soul Eater with 240 potency and restores HP with 300 cure potency. Soul Eater also generates 20 Blood Gauge. Blood Gauge is the Dark Knight equivalent to Beast and Oath Gauge. You'll use Blood Gauge on your big abilities, which I will get to in a few. Next, Unmen. This is the obligatory ranged ability with 150 potency, except this one also takes 5 seconds off your gap closer, Plunge. Plunge has 2 charges with a 30-second cooldown and a potency of 150. For AoE, Dark Knights have Unleash with a potency of 120 into Stalwart Soul with a potency of 140. Stalwart Soul also gives 20 Blood Gauge and restores 600 MP. Next we have Edge and Flood of Shadow, both cost 3000 MP and are off the GCD. Edge has a potency of 460, while Flood has a potency of 160 and hits all enemies in line in front of you. Both also grant Dark Side for 30 seconds, which increases your damage dealt by 10% and also caps it at 1 minute. Next we have Blood Spiller and Quietus. These both cost 50 Blood Gauge. Blood Spiller is a single target with 500 potency. Quietus is AoE with a potency of 200. Next, Abyssal Drain and Carve and Spit. Both share a 60-second cooldown. Abyssal Drain AoE and deals 240 potency, also restoring 600 MP and healing for 200 potency. Carve and Spit is the same thing but single target and without the cure. It has a potency of 510. Next, Salted Earth. This places an AoE beneath you for 15 seconds, dealing 500 potency per tick. This ability also has a 90-second cooldown and combos into Salt and Darkness. Salt and Darkness gives 500 potency to the first target standing in Salted Earth and 50% less to remaining enemies. It also has a 20-second cooldown, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to the cooldown on this one. Just use it while Salted Earth is down so it doesn't go away. Shadowbringer is essentially Flood of Shadow without the MP cost, and you only get 2 charges with a 60-second cooldown. It does 600 potency to the first target and 50% to the remaining. Blood Weapon grants 5 stacks of Blood Weapon. Each stack will increase Blood Gauge by 10 and restore 600 MP per weapon skill landed. It has a 15-second cooldown. Delirium grants 3 stacks of Delirium. Each stack will make Blood Spiller or Quietus free, and restore 600 MP per Blood Spiller and 500 per Quietus. Last DPS ability is Living Shadow, a great ability if you're feeling lonely. This will summon a friend to fight beside you for 50 seconds. This friend will cost you 50 Blood Gauge and deal 350 potency. It will do 6 attacks and is able to cast Shadowbringer. Alright, now we're on to Mitigation. First off, Shadow Wall is a 30% damage reduction for 15 seconds with a 2-minute cooldown. Dark Mind reduces magic damage taken by 20% for 10 seconds. Dark Missionary reduces magic damage taken by 10% to all party members within range for 15 seconds with a 90-second cooldown. Ablation reduces damage taken by 10% to whoever gets it. You can cast on yourself or others. I find it most useful as extra mitigation during tank busters or when someone else is in trouble. You get 2 charges with a 60-second cooldown. Next, Living Dead, which is the Dark Knight's Invuln. I did not forget to put Invuln in the script this time. Living Dead will give you Living Dead for 10 seconds. If your HP goes to 0 while in that 10-second window, you will get Walking Dead for 10 seconds. This makes it to where your HP can't go below 1 and you will heal for 1500 cure potency per target hit. When you heal for 100% of max HP while Walking Dead is active, it will be replaced by Undead Rebirth with the same duration. Same effect, however, if you don't heal all the way and Walking Dead expires, you will die. Alright, saving the best for last, the Blackest Night is the job-defining ability for Dark Knights, and it's one of the best mitigation tools in the entire game. This gives the target a shield totaling 25% of their HP. If the shield breaks before it falls off, you get Dark Arts, which gives you a free Edge or Flood of Shadow. This is great because of its 15-second cooldown, and you can place it on anyone. I use it for tank busters, raid wides, hard-hitting mechanics, basically anywhere. It's also good for saving people, mess up mechanics, or have a vulnerability stack. Blackest Night costs 3000 MP. As always, I don't feel the need to go in depth on tank-specific mitigation as I already have a tank guide, so Rapid Fire. Rampart, 20% damage reduction with 90-second cooldown. Reprisal, AoE, 10% damage reduction with 60-second cooldown. And Arm's Length, 15-second knockback resistance with 20% slow to enemies with a 2-minute cooldown. Okay, now we can finally put it all together for the opener and rotation. You are the main tank, turn your stance on, obviously. Quick note before we get started, Blackest Night is a part of pre-poll. What that implies, it will break in time for you to get Dark Arts. For some fights, that isn't the case. If it doesn't break, just don't cast it. It's better not to overcap on MP than lose that 3000. So for pre-poll, you're going to cast Blood Weapon and Blackest Night, and at 1, it's always a good idea to provoke, again, assuming you're the main tank. Open with Hard Slash, weave in Edge of Shadow and Delirium. Next Siphon Strike into Strength Potion. Follow up with Soul Eater, weaving into Living Shadow and Salted Earth. Next, one more Hard Slash, weaving into your first Shadowbringer and another Edge of Shadow. Next, we're going to spend our Delirium stacks, cast 3 Blood Spillers, weaving in Carve and Spit and Plunge on the first one. For your second one, weave in Shadowbringer and your third Edge of Shadow. And for that last one, cast Salt and Darkness with your fourth Edge of Shadow. Finally, end your opener with a Siphon Strike, weaving in Plunge and your last Edge of Shadow. Now, it's worth noting that there is one more opener with Delirium precast. Some fights benefit from casting it before poll. As always, for those specifics, I will link the Balance website for you to go to after the video. Alright, before I get into the next topic, I want to invite you guys to maybe hit that like button. Would really help me out in the algorithm. Let me know that you're enjoying this kind of content. Thanks for that. Now I want to get into the general rotation. For your general rotation, you're going to use Blood Spiller to avoid overcapping on Blood Gauge. Otherwise, save for raid buffs. Use your 1-2-3 combo as filler. Use Edge of Shadow to prevent overcapping on MP, but also save it for raid buffs. Hold Shadowbringer and Plunge for your raid buffs. As for your 1-minute cooldowns, such as Carve and Spit, Delirium, and Blood Weapon, use them off cooldown. Same rule applies for Salted Earth. Alright, so that about wraps up for rotation. Now on to stats and consumables. As always, grade 7 Strength Tinctures and Carrot Pudding are your 2 main consumables. In terms of stat priority, weapon damage, highest priority, followed by Strength, Crit, Skill Speed, Direct Hit, Determination, and Tenacity. Now in terms of how to apply that, I'm going to go ahead and link the Balance website once again. As I said during my Warrior Guide, they go into way more depth than I can put into one video and still feel sane. And that about wraps it up in terms of information. Now, how do I feel about Dark Knight? I find it to be very enjoyable during those burst windows. However, when it does slow down, I start to fall asleep a little bit. DK has the highest highs and the lowest lows for me. However, each their own. This is still the tank I found myself playing the most this tier. It's definitely found its footing this tier, along with Gunbreaker. So if you are on the fence about which tank to pick, consider Dark Knight, not to mention the edgelord fantasy that I know deep down we all enjoy. This class really brings me back to my Death Knight days in WoW, which was definitely one of my favorite tanks to play. There's definitely some nostalgia there. With all that being said, I do hope you enjoyed today's guide video. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel for more FF14 content. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Wake me up inside. Save me. Call my name and save